Hey everyone, I got a new camera. And today on Desk to Data Center, we will be installing Gitlab on our Linux VM that we built earlier and configuring Active Directory authentication. So stay tuned and stay with us. All right, so for today, we are going to install Gitlab following the guide on the Gitlab webpage, which I will put in the description below, the link to the description. It's super simple. We're just going to do some copy and pasting basically, and we'll be done before you know it. Most of this stuff has already been installed, but we're going to copy and paste and it should just say nothing to do if there's no problem. I've made the screen a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. As you can see, we added curl, policy, core utils, OpenSSH server, and Perl. We already had all that, so it's good. We don't need to enable SSHD because we already have it enabled. We are going to add some firewall rules. So we'll add HTTP because we're just going to do self-sign certs for right now. We don't have to worry too much about fancy certificates because it's just us and we don't have the money, and Let's Encrypt may or may not work. So we're not going to worry about that. The next thing, GitLab recommends installing Postfix so that your GitLab instance can email you. I believe we've already done this as well. Let's check though. So yeah, that's installed. And then let's just enable it so that it starts on boot. And then let's start the system. So as you can see, I'm literally copying and pasting all these commands. We can run through them, but it's pretty much DNF install stuff. Systemctl is your ability to start, stop, restart, and check statuses on services and software. And that's pretty much a lot of all we're doing. So the next step is to add the GitLab package repo and install the package. Now they give you a whole command that does this, and I've already done this, but let's see what happens if I do it again. Yeah, it's just gonna act like it's installing it. So as you can see, it's all done. It's generating a cache, and we're all done there. So the next thing is to install GitLab. So we're gonna copy this line and we're gonna make a little change. One thing we want to do before this is we don't want to call we could call our get server linsrv1.sysadmin.yt, the domain we set up, or we can do what's called a CNAME entry, which is a reference name to the main A record entry on DNS. So we'll go do that real quick before we do this next step. So we'll hop over to our Windows server, and here's our DNS. As you can see, we already made this A record for linsrv. Let's make a CNAME record, which is really just a word pointing to a word. And I still cannot type that domain right yet. So there we go. So now we have an alias that if people go to git.sysadmin.yt, they'll actually go to this A record and resolve this IP address. That way it's nice and clean and it all points to the same location. So now we can get our configuration ready here. Like I said, we're doing HTTP for now because we're pretty much internal. We could do HTTPS and it just not have a cert, but that's sort of silly too. It's not secure. You shouldn't do this. And there we go. Now we'll hit enter here. This will take a little while. This is not a big package, but they have a lot of pre-built scripts and configuration steps in the system so that you don't have to do anything other than run this install command. And then once that's done, we'll come back and we'll, get back to it. All right. Once it's all done installing, we can hop over to a web browser and check. And I just happen to have one pulled up over here. And there we are. So as you can see, git.sysadmin.yt/user/signin. Here is our GitLab Enterprise Edition, which is really a community edition without a license attached. GitLab installation. Now the next thing we do have to do is log in the first time as root and change the root password. So they give you a default root password located in a specific file called etc gitlab initial root password. You grab this password, copy and paste is your friend. It will be deleted after the first reconfigure run after 24 hours. So we go over here. We're going to change it anyway. We're going to sign in. Well, that's not good. Why did it deny us? Okay. So we're logged in as root. Ignore this. I just didn't put in the DNS entry, but the DNS entry should work fine. The first thing we're going to do is your GitLab instance allows you to register for an account, which is security risk. We are deactivating that. We do not want to allow people to register for accounts. That is where part 2 is coming in today. We are going to attach Active Directory to this once we rechange the password for the root user. I'll just hit save changes. All right, and we go here. This is our root user. We go to preferences. Let's set to dark mode, because why not? Here we go. And then I believe it's under account. It is not under account. We can change our username. Oh, duh. It's probably under password, right? That's where I'd keep it. Parent password. New password. Save password. There we go. So we get booted out. Verify our new password. New password works good. Cool. So now we go back to the Linux install GitLab to configure Active Directory. One thing it did mention that we should probably bring up is users must have email addresses to allow sign-in. We're going to be doing a very basic configuration of Active Directory authentication. So let's go to our SysAdmin Sean user and make sure he has an email address. He does not. So let's do now there's an email address. Now obviously it can't email that. That's not an email domain we've set up. We don't have a mail server or anything like that, but we could build one. But we'll probably save that for a different video. Let's go back over here. We are running this Linux box into the poor ground, sadly. This is real simple to do. We just edit etc GitLab RB, which is a Ruby file. We'll scroll down there. We can see the external URL that we configured, we installed. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Scroll down, scroll down. I don't remember if they keep this in here and comment it out, or if we actually just add it. I mean, technically we could just look for it. LDAP. LDAP settings. So, yeah, we want to comment out a bunch of lines here. You'll have to excuse me because I have to use my 10 key list. I don't have a lot of my stuff. We leave that alone. Label LDAP, cool. Remember to close this block with EOS below. So we got to make this a block. Boom. And then we got to go over here and remove all these comments. We'll fast forward through this because I don't want you guys to see me fumbling around with this. I'm gonna leave all that cleaned up, and then we've got to end our block. And yeah, we will just do this. End of statement is now in there. So what do we got to do to actually configure this? All right. So our LDAP server, we know what that is. That's linsrv1. Port 389, because we're just doing LDAP. We're not doing LDAP mess. The UID, this is what it's going to request people use to log in. So SAMA account name. So let's hop back over here. I wish I'd left this open. And we will show folks. So just so everyone understands. Oh, I bet I gotta turn advanced on. Boop. Advanced features let you see more. And honestly, I don't know why it's not on by default. So if we go to attribute editor, bang, we should see, we can search for it, SAMA account name. So there's our SAMA account name, which is just our login name without the domain after it. So that's what we're gonna use to log in. The bind in. So this is a user account that you will bind with. Usually use a service account. So let's make one real quick. So we will go in here, new user. We're gonna call it SVC Gitlab so that we know that it's a service account for Gitlab. And we're gonna leave that alone. Gonna do that. User cannot change password and it never expires, which you shouldn't do. So we've got to give this a password because it's going to be in plain text for you all to see. I'm going to give it something silly that doesn't matter. I think we're in a rhythm now. There we go. All right, so now we have this user. We add their info in here and it said their full username. So SVC, what did we call it? Gitlab. Yep. At. That would be their full username. So username at domain. And then this is the password. Please don't laugh. There we go. Cool. All of that should be fine. We could set a user filter if we need to. We need to set encryption to a simple TLS. We honestly don't need these. We'll comment these out. If I could type, obviously it's Active Directory and lowercase usernames. We'll comment that. Oh my gosh. It is extremely hard to do this sometimes. Block auto created users. We're already doing that. Holding down function to move the arrow keys. Base. So this is pretty easy. DC SysAdmin Sean, comma DC YP, because that's our domain. Then we'll move down one more. Let off. There we go. All right, so that should be our configuration. We're gonna give it a try. So we save this file and we do GitLab CTL reconfigure. And if that doesn't explode in our faces, we should be good to go. Now, technically, the way we've configured this, every user in our environment can log in now. We don't have any specifically configured groups or any fancy thing like that. We could have changed that base DN to a specific OU or specific group called like GitLab users so that we could control who on our domain logs in. Since it's just me on the domain, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it did not like something on that host line. All right, so after a whole bunch of beating my head across the table and doing a bunch of dumb stuff and not paying attention to what I'm doing and not doing everything like I'm supposed to and not reading like I'm supposed to, here is the configuration that works. The first part that I missed was that this needs to be set to true or else none of it works. And then we've got LDAP in here. I've put the IP address in because DNS wasn't working, but DNS is working now after a network restart. SAMO account name, we're doing our binding in this way. There's the password. And then here's our base OU to look for users. This has worked. This is what, goodness, I will show in the configuration files on the GitHub. So once that's done, we ran reconfigure, we now have this. So as you can see, instead of just login, we have standard and we have LDAP. LDAP means we can log in as an LDAP user. So let's pick our LDAP user and log in. And there we go. So now we have Gitlab and it's attached to our Active Directory. So our users in Active Directory can automatically sign in, create projects, create groups, and do all that. Now I'm going to leave a lot of the mistakes in because it's part of being a sysadmin. A lot of that is trial and error. Sometimes you look at documentation and it doesn't work, and then you revert back and it doesn't work, and then you skip a step because you weren't paying close enough attention, and you go back and look and you see the step you skipped. So now we've got a running GitLab server. The next video we make is going to have us attaching our VS Code install to this GitLab server so that we can start using it without having to just go to the server and type things in manually. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed the new camera. I hope you enjoy all the mistakes I made and learned something from it. And we will see you in the next one.